Hello friends, how are you doing all? I hope you are doing well, staying healthy, enjoying life and must be planning to improve your life. Here we are to do so. Here, daily we read a chapter of a novel to develop reading habit to improve our English, including reading, writing, speaking, vocabulary at the same time, enhancing our knowledge. And we know reading is the best practice to develop all these things, which help us in many ways. And reading could be one of the good hobby to make a change in ourselves. And we have also heard from many prominent personalities that book change their life, add values, widen their knowledge. We can live our life by reading a book and get all those experience and learn from their mistake. So why to commit same mistake? We can learn from them and improve our life. So join me in this journey to become best version of ourselves or keep learning. Before starting, I would love to hear your thought in comment section. Remember to like, share with your friends and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Press the bell icon for daily updates. Today we are going to read part 9 of this particular novel, that is Your Dreams Are Mine Now, which is written by Ravinder Singh. In the previous video we have talked about and we have read about that Rupali with that lady peon went to the that office Professor cabin and talk to the and stop harassing that peon, but he was not ready to accept this. And at the end, after so much conversation, he slapped to Nupali. So we will see in this chapter that what happened next. So let's start and see that what happened in this chapter.
9. Haven't you understood it yet? The principal won't care enough for it. That dog has slapped you on one cheek. The principal will do so on the other. What will you do then? That was Saloni, and they were discussing the matter in their room. She was annoyed when she came to know of Rupali's call for action and what had happened in Mahajan's cabin that afternoon. Initially, Rupali had known that Saloni wouldn't understand what she wanted to do, so she didn't want to tell her anything. But she could not lie to her for so long either, especially when Saloni had noticed that one side of her face and her ear were red. Are you even listening to what I am saying? You are not going to do anything. All right, said Saloni. Look at me. You have come here all the way from Patna to study. Don't get into all this. It's not good for you in any way. When she didn't hear even a word from her roommate, she confronted her. Am, am I making any sense to you? She raised Rupali's chin and wanted her to respond. Rupali calmly nodded, only to avoid a debate with her roommate. Saloni too knew that Rupali wasn't buying her argument. She was already extremely disappointed to know what had happened to Rupali. Her roommate's cold reaction to her advice was making her more frustrated. Saloni's anger was justified. She cared for Rupali and was worried about her future, her studies. In her mind, Rupali was the best human she had ever come across, and she didn't want to see her ruining her life for someone else. Every time she looked at her red face, in her mind she imagined Professor Mahajan slapping her best friend. And this was tearing her apart. A silent Rupali sat on her chair, reflecting upon the course of events in Mahajan's cabin. She was wondering what she was going to do next. One thing was sure in her mind, there was no going back. She was also concerned that Rahima must not retract from her position and must continue to fight this battle that the two of them had begun. In her anger, Saloni walked restlessly in her room. She couldn't contain herself. I'm extremely angry with that bastard for having treated you so badly, she said angrily. You hate him because he slapped me. I hate him for what he has been doing to Rahima, Rupali said calmly. wondering if it made sense to her roommate. Rahima, Rahima, Rahima. Why are you so bothered about her? Saloni shouted in despair. Had it been you instead of Rahima, would you have said the same thing? Rupali countered her friend. One half of Saloni's mind wanted to respond to that. The other half wanted to understand the gravity of the situation. When she tried to answer that, she realized that she was at a loss for words. Rupali said again, or had it been my mother in Rahima's place, should I have let the matter be even then? But that's not the case at the moment, right? It isn't your mother. It is the peon whom you hardly knew till a week back. Saloni argued back, but only for the sake of arguing. She knew that she had already lost the argument. She couldn't answer Rupali's previous question. Yes, today there is one peon. Tomorrow, there will be two more, and they will be asked to compromise or be ready to be thrown out of the system. Do you know the same peon had told me that 2 years back, there was a student just like us, who had to leave midway because of this monster. No one knows where she went after she left her studies suddenly, or what happened to her. We too are partly responsible for this state of affairs, by not raising our voices against it. If we don't stand up against people like Mahajan, believe me, this one Mahajan will breed more Mahajans. Together, they will increase the number of ill-fated Rahimas in our society. Gradually, people will start accepting the rule of the jungle. If we keep thinking of just ourselves and don't stand up for others, we will always leave the good alone, and that's where evil will triumph. Today, Mahajan is doing what he wants because he knows we are alone. But tomorrow, if the entire college is united and shouts outside his cabin, he will be worried and will have to change his ways, or better still, leave. After a brief pause, she added, there are moments when we conveniently ignore the logic, just because it works for us. But please understand, Saloni, I cannot do that. I cannot ignore that. That's how I am. What do I do? No one could have refuted the honesty with which Rupali spoke. Saloni didn't know what to say. A few moments of silence were what she needed to understand and digest all that Rupali stood for. There were simply no ifs and buts in the argument. It was the plain naked truth. When you don't fight against evil, you too are to be blamed as much as the evil itself. You have two choices: accept it, or fight it out. After listening to Rupali, Saloni's thoughts too began to change. At least Rupali thought so when she did not hear Saloni argue further. She was about to ask Saloni if she had been able to influence her thoughts when Saloni's cell phone interrupted the brief silence. Hi, baby. Saloni said, but not with her usual level of excitement. It was Imran on the phone. No, I won't be coming today. You guys play, she said. Rupali isn't feeling well, so I am with her. You guys go ahead. I will call you at night. Yeah, bye. Rupali looked at Saloni, and before she could ask why she wasn't going to play, Saloni came and tightly hugged her roomie. She then kissed her forehead and sat next to her. You are so brave, she said softly but with a lot of pride in her voice for her roommate. But not as brave as you to get your boyfriend inside a girls' hostel, that too in broad daylight. Rupali teased Saloni and smiled to lighten up the mood. Saloni too tried to smile, but the red impression of Mahajan's hand on her friend's face stole her smile. By morning, Rupali had Saloni's full support. She was convinced that her friend was doing the right thing and therefore she was going to back her in her endeavor. At the same time, Saloni continued to worry about Rupali. She had offered Rupali her father's assistance. He was a renowned advocate in the Delhi High Court. Rupali knew that Saloni was trying to help, but she said no to involving him in her fight, at least at that point of time. However, the more urgent thing to do now was to get dressed quickly. In the bright morning sun, life was again back to normal in the college block. The classes finally resumed as the elections were over. The hostel mess, where footfall during breakfast had plunged, suddenly witnessed a surge. The demand for paranthas was more than the supply, so a few students simply had the tea and opted to move out and grab a sandwich from the college canteen. The sight of students, in groups and on their own, walking towards the college block in the morning hours, after a break of a few days, appeared delightful. The noisy corridors became a treat to everyone's ears, including those of the faculty. The entire college atmosphere was recharged with energy after the election break. The resumption of classes gave an opportunity to the hostelers and localites to interact, update each other on the news, and share a few light moments with each other. Amid the hustle and bustle in the corridor of their hostel, Rupali and Saloni stepped out of their block to attend the first period, when Rahima bumped into them. Saloni had already seen her once, but by now, she knew of her story as well. Even though she hadn't interacted with Rahima earlier, Saloni felt as if she knew her closely. Rahima looked as if she had to say something, but seemed hesitant. Rupali sensed that she was feeling shy in front of Saloni. You don't have to worry, Didi. She's my best friend. You can speak freely in her presence, she said. Trying to put her at ease, Rahima gave a weak smile. She didn't look very confident but spoke. I want you to meet someone. Meet someone. Rupali thought to herself and said, okay, but who is it? A bit impatiently. She looked at her watch and realized that she was getting late for her class. Arjun Bhaiya, replied Rahima. Rupali hadn't heard this name earlier. She wondered who this person was and why Rahima wanted her to meet him. Rahima clarified that Arjun could help the two of them in their battle against Mahajan. But as she was getting late, they decided that they would meet Arjun during the break. They were to meet at Shafi's tea shop and not in the college block. She didn't want Mahajan to see her with Rupali. As soon as their conversation was over, Saloni and Rupali ran towards their college, hoping that they would make it in time for the attendance. Saloni laughed as they ran. What? Rupali asked. Looks like Madam Rahima might be doing a bit of matchmaking here, she said, naughtily winking at Rupali. Rupali shook her head. You really have a one-track mind. Saloni laughed. Entering their class well in time as the professor was late, Rupali kept thinking about this person Rahima wanted her to meet. Well, we shall see who this Robin Hood is, she thought and started concentrating on the class.